Hey y'all, how do I care for my flute? Well, first thing is, especially if you ordered it in the mail. If you ordered it in the mail, a lot of my business is online, so once you receive that flute, let it acclimate to its new environment for a couple of weeks. Especially if it just came in from the house, it was out in the mail truck or whatever, comes into the house, that flute is cold. And you don't want to bring that into your warm home and blow your warm breath into it immediately. Let it sit in the house for a few hours and warm up before you even try playing it. That's always a good idea. And then 2 weeks, give it to acclimate to its new environment. Say it came from a damp climate, went into a dry climate. Give it some time to acclimate to its new surroundings, especially exotic hardwoods. You know, they're beautiful and everything, but they are a little bit more temperamental. They're better if you have one flute, two flutes. It's better to have American woods, non-oily exotic woods, or something that's a little bit softer that really will hold together at the glue seam well, all that. That's ideal. Exotic flutes are great for performers playing 10 minutes at a time, 10, 20 minutes maybe, real decorative, and then they put that flute down, play a different key. Anybody who's playing a song per flute and has a collection has no problems with their flutes and problems with wet out, problems with, hardwoods acting up on them, anything like that. So that's always something to keep in mind. Also, drastic temperature changes. Once it's acclimated for a couple of weeks, playing only 10 minutes at a time instead of a half hour to an hour on your flute, 10 minutes at a time for the first couple of weeks till it's really broken in. That's ideal. And then after that, and during that, of course, temperature changes. Always pay attention to that. Don't put your flute in a car dashboard with the sun beating on it. Not a good idea. Don't be outside with a flute in the cold and stand right up next to a campfire when it's 40 or below 40 outside. You have a cold flute and you're right by that hot fire. I've seen a cedar flute blow up, crack right down the center from that drastic temperature change. Don't put on a heater. Don't put it in the window at the house. A lot of people like to display their flutes on a mantelpiece over a fireplace. I think that's okay, but just pay attention to how hot it gets because you don't want that drastic temperature change. If you play outside with your flute, try to keep it warm. Keep it in a pouch. Keep it under your arm or something. Try to keep it relatively warm. That always helps. There are, of course, woods that you can purchase, alder, some of the soft maples, some of the softer hardwoods, but also, the cedars and things like that. They are going to be the best for outdoor use. Something to keep in mind. Anything else? That's basically it. Drastic temperature changes, let it acclimate to its climate, and then once you've had that flute, long-term care. Um, there's not really a whole lot you have to do. You have your flute and it's got a hard finish on it, and inside and out. At least my flutes do. And people ask me, should I oil the flute or that? But with this kind of finish on there, I don't think that it's that necessary. It's pretty much going to last as long as it needs to last forever this way. Maybe once in a while, every 5 years, you could send it to me and I'll put a new coat of finish on it or something like that. But I don't even think that'd be necessary. If you want to oil it once in a while, say you're in Arizona, a real dry climate, and you can actually notice that it's drying out the wood or feel it, or maybe you just think that it needs to be moisture added, use a nut oil like walnut oil. I've heard olive oil can make things rot, go rancid, so you don't want to do that. Also, so a nut oil, here's a little reamer or flute cleaner that you can buy at a music store. This is for a clarinet. You could probably find a thinner one for a silver flute. And you could, if you really want to care for your flutes, I don't do this with mine, but if you wanted to, you could store that right inside of there like that, and keep it clean, keep any cobwebs from getting out of there, keep a spider from crawling on up there and freaking you out when you start playing. Anything like that. One of the common things that people run across when playing a flute, especially when they're new and they only have, say, one flute and they're falling in love and they're playing for hours, is the wet out. Um, my flutes don't have a reputation for wetting out easily. Wet out means that this here is the sound block. This is what produces the sound. Air goes through this hole, out another hole that's underneath there. I can show you that right here. Comes out that oval hole right here. On mine, it's an oval hole. And then the air slides across your fetish and produces a sound by hitting this cutting edge right here. So moisture gets built up underneath here, or underneath the fetish itself, underneath this air passage here. When that happens, unless you let it sit and dry, again, if you're playing 10 minutes at a time, like I do, or like a lot of performers do, you won't have that problem. You shouldn't have that problem. But if you are playing for a half hour or quite a long time, or if it's cold outside and you're playing, you'll get wet out pretty quick uh, on some flutes. So you can remove that and let it sit. Some people say they like to let it sit upside down like this, lean it against something, and let this just dry out. Of course, you can try wiping it off. But if you're playing and you played a half hour and it's all wet there and you just want to keep playing and you just wipe it with something and put the fetish back on, all that moisture is in here, so it's only going to last a few minutes now until it wets out again. Something to keep in mind. Some people store their flutes with the fetish off. I don't think it's necessary. Again, if you have a collection of flutes, or if that's what your long-term goal is, because these are key specific, and you want to have, if you have a bunch of flutes, if you're only playing this for a short period of time and then you set it down and you're not playing it for a day or two or a few, then it's not something that you really have to worry about taking the fetish on and off, I wouldn't say. So I guess that's it, and good luck, and you should get a nice, long, and happy life out of your flute. All right, thanks.